Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba of LumumbaSpeaks.com, the Black Empowerment Initiative, where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black, in conjunction, once again, with Bequaline Network, the Pan African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African Center News and Information. Back once again with a show that I think is important that we're going to really dive into. But before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like, subscribe, share, and of course, donate to Lumumba Speaks at, of course, Cash App and Venmo, and of course, via the Super Chat. So I've gotten some questions regarding the topic for today's show. And I see Facts Not Feelings 3247 states people who delete other people get less time than that. Overstood. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. But I would argue that the sentence was based on the irreparable harm that was done by the Moors. But we will get into that. Don't want to get in front, don't want to put the cart before the horse. So before we get started, we're really going to do a deep dive right in. First and foremost, today's Black History Fact. We have two Black History Facts today, family. First, today is the birthday of Tupac Amaru Shakur. Of course, many people are familiar with Tupac. He's considered to be one of the greatest rappers of all time. And from his, particularly during his stint with, of course, Death Row Records, he was born on this day. And if I remember correctly, 1971 or 72. And then the second Black History Fact is rather unfortunate one, a somber one. That is on this day, 50 years ago, the Soweto uprising took place, of course, in Soweto, South Africa, June 16th, 1976. Black school children were engaging in a peaceful protest, a march, which of course is something that we find taking place here in the States as well. And they were, of course, deleted by historical white supremacist police officers. And so definitely want to make sure we remember those children, the same way we remember the four little girls who were taken from us before that time with the 16th Street, at the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. Please forgive me, family. I can't talk today. We know, if I remember correctly, Angela Davis grew up in Birmingham, and she called, of course, Birmingham, Alabama during that time, particularly during the Jim Crow era, when there was a fight to desegregate Birmingham, Alabama. And the predominant section in the Black community lived on a hill. It was called Dynamite Hill due to, of course, the use of explosives by white supremacists to create particular terroristic harm to, of course, the Black community. So definitely want to remember those children of Soweto, their ancestors now. We know that they're with us, but they were taken before their time. Then, of course, today is the birthday of one of the greatest rappers of all time, Tupac Amaru Shakur. So before we get started, family, we jump into the conversation. As you all know, here at Lumumba Speaks, we believe in diversity of thought. So irrespective of you on the left, you're on the right down the middle, this is a conversation you can be part of. Number one, we believe in facts, not feelings, right? So if you have an argument, you want to make sure that you disagree with the person. I'm sorry, you want to disagree with the argument, right? Attack the argument, not the person. Number two, you can't make any claims that are adverse to facts, right? So you have to make sure you're making claims that are fact-based, right? If you make a claim that is not fact-based, I will chime in like the Sandman on the Apollo and have to correct you. One of the reasons I do that is because as a scholar, right, I am responsible for the information that's disseminated on my channel. And if I don't, of course, address that issue, it hurts my credibility. Number three, no racial epithets of any kind. No epithets of any kind, irrespective of how you feel about any particular community. This is a space of Black empowerment. We believe, of course, in the three ends of Black power: self-respect, self-defense, and of course, self-determination. And then last but not least, our mission here is neither to exonerate or vilify, but to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine what has been previously accepted as fact. So with that being said, family, we're going to get the conversation started. So many of you may be unaware of Marlon and LaShonda Moore. They were celebrity, many would argue power couple. They were on the reality TV show Fiance some reality TV show about them getting married. They were even on the Breakfast Club, right? And so they Marlon was a DJ. LaShonda Moore, of course, was a single mother of two. From the reality TV show, the clip I saw, she was a mother of two. The father was a former basketball player. They came together and kind of, living a glamour lifestyle, decided to create focus on financial empowerment. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna play a little clip about them, and then we would get into the conversation, the sentence, and why I think it's important that we have a conversation about LaShonda Moore and the Moors, right? Particularly in terms of why this is important to the Black community and why there's a focus on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show a clip from American Greed, fair use, fair use, fair use, because I definitely don't want to uh, find myself in a situation where we get a copyright strike. But I'm going to say fair use, fair use, fair use, and we hope that we will be okay. Okay.
Wealth. They call it affinity fraud.
$33 million circulated.
They use religion.
We are two God-fearing individuals.
They know the buzzwords. Building Black wealth. Blessings.
More people are going to continue to be blessed out.
The Moors use Zoom and other video platforms to sell their schemes and recruit.
So one of the biggest things, so they created this organization, Blessings in No Time, but the biggest issue was they use the cultural connection. You're talking about that grift, right? The fact that you can trust us because we're African Americans, we are Christian, you can trust us to invest your money with us, even though they don't have a background in financial investment. If I remember correctly, he was a DJ and his wife was working in insurance claims, right? But this is something to be cognizant of when we talk about that anti-Black racism is omnipresent, and so we have to address individuals that seek to do Black people harm internally and externally, or we like to say intra-communally and inter-communally, right? This is a primary example of that.
Recruit members nationwide for their online investment community called Blessings in No Time, aka BINT.
What's up, BINT family?
What's up, BINT family?
They created this blessings circle under the guise of blessings for Black people.
And as you can imagine, it was a pyramid scheme. So it was a pyramid scheme, 100%. So just be cognizant of that. It was a pyramid scheme. So hold on 1 second, I lost that. Let me bring it back up. But it was a pyramid scheme. So let's see here.
Wealth. Blessings.
More people are going to continue to be blessed out.
The Moors use Zoom and other video platforms to sell their schemes and recruit members nationwide for their online investment community called Blessings in No Time, aka BINT.
What's up, BINT family?
What's up, BINT family?
They created this blessings circle under the guise of blessings for Black people.
The Moors preach rapid BINT returns of biblical proportions and a money-back guarantee.
This is a very confusing and convoluted structure.
The FTC says BINT is an old-school fraud
Greed is like the venom of a snake.
with a modern spin that the Moors hype as totally legit.
It's always and still will be BINT.
Okay, family. So very quickly, I'm going to read the sentence, the statement made by the press release made by, of course, federal court regarding their sentence, and then we'll get into the conversation. As you all know, the link is in the description. The link will be in the chat momentarily. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and donate. Lumumba Speaks Be Quiet Network here on YouTube. So Texas couple sentenced for running an illegal pyramid scheme. A Texas couple was sentenced on June 9th, 2026 to 40 years each in prison for running a fraudulent chain referral pyramid scheme, following their convictions by a jury on conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering charges in January 2026. At the peak of the pandemic, LaShonda and Marlon Moore launched an investment fraud scheme and cheated struggling Americans out of $30 million, said Assistant Attorney General A. Tyson Duba of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. This fraud scheme exploited people out of their hard-earned money at a time when they needed it most. Opportunity fraudsters like the Moors belong in prison. The Moors get-rich-quick scheme has earned them a well-deserved stay in federal prison, said the U.S. Attorney J.R. Combs for the Eastern District of Texas. Playing games with other people's money while promising unrealistic returns is stealing and will be prosecuted and punished. The harm caused by greed-driven, deceptive investments promising returns too good to be true cannot be overstated, said Inspector in Charge Eric Shin of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service Criminal Investigations Group. The mission of the USPIS continues to aggressively investigate such schemes and hold fraudsters fully accountable. Those who exploit uncertainty and hardship for personal profit undermine the safety and security of our communities, said Special Agent in Charge Christina Farley of the U.S. Secret Service Dallas Field Office. The Moors took advantage of trust and hope during a time of national crisis, causing significant harm to thousands of victims. Today's sentencing sends a clear message that the Secret Service remains steadfast in our mission to investigate and disrupt these schemes, and those who prey on vulnerable communities for personal gain will be held fully accountable. The Moors use a polished image and reality TV appearance to build trust, but behind the scenes, they orchestrated a deceptive pyramid scheme built on fake playing boards and false promises of 800% returns, said Special Agent in Charge Christopher J. Optimus Jr. of the IRS Criminal Investigations Dallas Field Office. The scheme deliberately targeted the African American community, exploiting cultural trust and community ties. These sentences make it clear, if you abuse trust and exploit communities, you will face justice. According to court documents and evidence presented at trial, LaShonda Moore, 38, and Marlon Moore, 39, in Frisco, Texas, so they're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, founded and ran Blessings in No Time, known as BINT, an illegal chain referral pyramid scheme that targeted victims during the COVID-19 pandemic from June 2020 to June 2021. BINT targeted and recruited victims with false and misleading promises through weekly live stream video podcasts to thousands of participants across the United States during the COVID-19 shutdown. Victims were falsely promised that they would earn 80% returns, 800% returns on each $1,400 investment, and were guaranteed a refund if they were unsatisfied. The Moors falsely held out BINT as a way for people to help their own community by paying blessings of at least 1,400 participants who had already joined. The Moors falsely promised that new participants' blessings payments would be paid back eightfold within a few weeks. Eightfold, family. BINT was falsely presented as an altruistic invitation-only community to help others during the economic downturn from COVID-19 pandemic. The defendants structured BINT to operate on playing boards that had positions for its participants on 4 levels: 8 fires, 4 winds, 2 earths, and 1 water. So they're leaning on that cultural aspect, right? We're thinking of earth, wind, and fire here. Once 8 new participants were recruited to fill all 8 fire positions on the playing board, each fire was directed to bless or pay at least $1,400 to the participant in the water position. A water participant then received 8 payments totaling more than $11,000. After a water participant received his or her payment, other participants at lower levels would move up 1 level on the board and then will be required to recruit new participants into the fire positions to perpetuate the scheme. To profit from the investment scheme, the defendants placed themselves in positions on the playing boards so that they receive many of the ultimate payments. They otherwise diverted substantial money to themselves that was paid by the participants. The defendants' pyramid scheme victimized more than 10,000 people across the country and inflicted more than $30 million in victim losses. So this is a statement from, of course, the U.S. Attorney's Office, Eastern District of Texas. This was, of course, a press release. So you can see they did substantial harm to a significant group of members of the community. We're talking about over 10,000, $30 million. That would be why, of course, they got the sentence that they received. Now, I do know for individuals who have been ensnared by the federal court system, typically after they go to prison, federal prison, they could get into the law library and find ways to work that sentence down. But this is something I think is that one should really take a look at, right? One, this is a pyramid scheme. If anyone is unfamiliar with a pyramid scheme or how it works, you have to recruit people into the so-called company in order to receive a payout. That's how a pyramid works. Similar to many religious institutions in terms of the focus on, of course, earning capital, making money. But this is something to consider. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is now in the chat. I want you to tap in, share your thoughts. Once again, you can like, share, subscribe. Appreciate you, brother, at Jamon93. Tap in, be part of the convo. I definitely want to hear from you all in terms of your thoughts. Were you familiar with Marlon and LaShonda Moore? You can put a one in the chat if you were familiar. You can put a two in the chat if you were not familiar. But I definitely want to hear from you all regarding if you were even familiar with BINT, Blessings in No Time, using, of course, the cultural grift, the care and concern for the community, relying on religion. We know most of our people here, of course, Christian. And so for them, there's a focus on believing rather foolishly that if someone shares their faith, then this is a person of great character, right? We know that historically, even contemporarily, okay, just hearing about it, that's not the case. But unfortunately, for many of us, that is the level of really indoctrination that we receive. That if someone articulates or espouses that they have a particular belief system without even learning the person's character, there's a belief that okay, this is a person I can trust. We know that's not the case. I think the Moors are a great example of this. But definitely want to hear from you all because, as I stated before, when we talk about enemies of African people, enemies of Black people, domestic and abroad, what we find is there are intracommunal enemies and intercommunal enemies. And this would be an example of individuals who are intracommunal, right? Extremely unfortunate, particularly individuals. And one of the things that we found was that the $1,400 threshold was the amount of COVID refund checks that people received from the federal government. So they really, right, conspired to say, okay, we're going to use COVID as a way for us to, of course, benefit ourselves financially by, of course, exploiting, of course, the faith and trust of the Black community. So definitely want to hear from you all. I think the sentence is just 40 years, right? I think it's just. Of course, like I said, they could go into the law library, file motions, and more than likely be able to get that sentence reduced. But as of now, they would not get out of prison until they're 78, 79 years old. So we're talking about an extreme disruption of their lives. It may someone even argue that this may be even a life sentence for many, right? It should have been obvious at that point, right? Well, and that's the issue. Hopefully you can tap in, be part of the conversation. As you all know, you do not have to cam up to be part of the convo. You can use a pseudonym, but that's something I really would like to explore is the why it's difficult for people to actually see that they're being taken advantage of. I argue that some of this is menticidal. We know Brother Jabril, Africa, brother from Somalia, shout out to him. He's, of course, in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. He always talks about this issue of menticide in the Black community. If you don't know what menticide is, that is the inability to think critically and independently, right? And we tend to find, unfortunately, that our religious belief system plays a role in the inability to think critically and independently and really be able to decipher, as those in the church would say, discern when someone is grifting, when someone is a charlatan, when someone is seeking to take advantage of someone. So definitely hope you all can tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to hear from you all, right, regarding this issue. Black scammers Marlon and LaShonda Moore sentenced to 40 years in prison, right? It's a quick thing, there's no such thing as a get rich quick scheme. That's not how the world works. So if anyone tells you, hey, this is something you could jump into and there's going to be a benefit, we know that's not true. Maybe if you're engaging in insider trading, right? But we know that's illegal as well. So once again, family, the link is in the description. The link is in the chat. You're watching, of course, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black Empowerment Initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always spending in Black in conjunction with Bequaline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. So definitely tap in, family. Want to hear from you all regarding this issue, right? If you're unfamiliar with the issue, we could just discuss the issue in general of individuals seeking to use religion, cultural ties, community ties to, of course, influence and, of course, manipulate the Black community. I know we've talked in the past, previous shows regarding Cheyenne Bryant, right? And the fact that now she's coming out and saying, well, almost trying to, lean into the religious grift, talking about, well, I don't have to answer to the naysayers because if Jesus answered all the naysayers, he would have made it to this cross. The brother posted, well, the next grift is she's going to come back like Kwame Kilpatrick, talking about that she's a Christian, she's a reverend now. We know this is a grift in the community that's been going on a long time. Even Booker T. Washington, in his memoir, Up from Slavery, masterful text written in 1901. So that text was written 125 years ago, right? Up from Slavery by Booker T. Washington. He even talks about that issue in his memoir. So something to, of course, be cognizant of, consider. We would argue, of course, here at Lumumba Speaks, when we're looking from an African-centered paradigm, that this, of course, is a derivative, of course, a vestige of the Holocaust of enslavement, this concept and process of socializing a group of people to lack the capacity to think critically and intellectually regarding issues that we face on a diurnal basis. So structurally, institutionally, etc. So definitely want to hear from you all, family. Tap in, be part of the convo. You're watching LumumbaSpeaks.com in conjunction with Beacon Network, the Pan African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. Just want to get some thoughts out there. Once again, if a lot of people don't chime in, we could cut things short. But I've also noticed for some reason my views are down. So many of you are aware we drop daily Black History Facts. We have them preloaded for about 5 years. Typically got a lot of views. And now all of a sudden we're getting 3, 4, 5 views on History Facts. So don't really know what that issue is, but LMA dribbling down on VA. I see you. We're going to bring you in momentarily. So I don't know if YouTube is messing with the algorithm or they're trying to really, de-emphasize my content. You all tell me what's going on. But LMA, what's the word?
Can you hear me, Dr. Lumumba?
I hear you just fine.
Yes. Okay. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Great topic. I didn't hear about these two. I just caught your commentary on them. I didn't hear about these two. Usually, I'm pretty good at keeping up with the scammers in the community. So these guys slipped my radar. So I'm glad they're caught and they're off the street. And that's one down, 2,538 to go, I guess.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the brothers commented, people get less time for deleting someone. What are your thoughts on that comment?
They get less time?
Yes, less
time.
You're
saying that?
Yes, for actually deleting someone. The brother states people who delete other people get less time than that. They got 40 years each. They each got 40 years.
Yeah, I guess, at some point, they kind of do it as a cumulative, right? So like, if you steal $100, you probably just get a weekend. If you steal, 100,000, you probably get 2 or 3 years. But when you steal like, millions upon millions, I guess it just accumulates. Yeah, 30 million. I guess it just accumulates, So I guess it's just like, it's almost like there's no limit to how much debt you can go into, right? But, until they stop you, until the bank stop you. So I guess that's just, the way it is. Like, the more you steal, the more you gotta pay. So, I mean, at that point, what I'm saying? Like, once you start stealing that much money across the, economy, like, I guess it's just they just don't put a limit on it, right? Because I guess at that point, right, if you can steal, and it doesn't matter if I steal 100,000 or 40 million, why not go for broke, So I guess if you just keep, you keep stealing, you keep accruing that debt, and so.
Well, I think, and I'm not going to play the rest of the video out of fear of being us getting a strike. But one of the things that we saw here was they started to berate people on their live streams when they were asking, hey, why haven't we received our money? Right? Or when people ask for a refund, that's one of the things that they guaranteed was that if you're unhappy with our service, you'll receive a refund, and they weren't receiving a refund. They were berating people. Right? So extremely unprofessional. This is something I would say you have to do a background check. Right? You need to say, okay, if you're speaking on a particular subject matter, what is your expertise? Do you have a background in this industry? Right? Because what happens is these are individuals who are really just talking heads, finding a way to make money. I took issue on my platform of Rizza Islam. Right? Yeah. And so what ended up taking place, he was talking about, well, don't take this COVID shot. And I said, well, here's the issue. Yeah. You're not a medical healthcare specialist. You're not a medical professional. Yeah. So why are you giving your opinion? Is that uneducated? Right? Yeah. So these are the type of things that I take an extreme issue and umbrage with. Cheyenne Bryant, for example, there's a sister, dark-skinned sister. She went on social media and talked about that she actually booked a session with Cheyenne Bryant. And she said that she came away disillusioned, disenchanted, and because she said during my session, all she did was talk about herself. And if anyone has had therapy, I've gone through that. Have you had therapy before, Brother LMA?
Yes.
I've had therapy. Typically, to go to the therapist is to get you to talk, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they listen, and then they really kind of ask introspective questions, maybe more so even Socratic questioning to help you formulate how to develop the solution to the issue that's going on in your life.
Right.
They don't come and say, well, I'm going to talk about me because you know what I did when I was at the gym this morning and I was doing the XYZ and you know, I'm him, not them, man. I'm a Timothy, not a Timothy. And so when you bet on black, you could be doctor. Like, hold on, brother, you're not helping me at all.
Yeah.
You know, these are some of the issues. So we tend to find this is a big thing in the black community, right? I saw there was a situation in Chicago. Shout out to, you know, the Shy. But where this individual had set up a fake dental office and were putting in veneers. But of course, they didn't have the training, so they weren't doing that, right? And people, they put the veneers in. Person goes home, they wake up in the morning, their teeth are hanging out their mouth, right? And of course, they end up being arrested because you can't practice dentistry without a license. So individuals are just grifting rather than doing the actual work and getting the education. But the major issue is they're leaning on cultural ties. I'm an African American. I'm black just like you. You can trust me. They even leaned on we're God-fearing. What the French toast does that mean? And we hear that all the time. What the hell does that mean? Right? And guess what happened? And they swindled those people, over 10,000 people, out of an aggregate of $30 million.
How many people?
Over 10,000. Black people.
Man.
I taught my children this when they were young, and I would say this ad nauseum while they were growing up, coming of age. If someone tells you they're God-fearing, run. They're trying to manipulate you.
Yep. Yeah.
Literally. I said we're talking about we're talking about real world application. If someone says that to you, I said if someone tells you the God-fearing, someone tells you God told me XYZ, they're trying to manipulate you. I used to tell my students at Sac State, particularly female students, if a man comes up to you and says, God told me you're going to be my wife, they're trying to manipulate you. They're running game because we've been socialized, and we know this is a derivative of the Holocaust of enslavement, that a person mentions God in any way, shape, or form, you're not supposed to question them. And you know my response to that?
Calls me. Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta add another one to that list. I gotta add King. Or like someone calls him King or.
Go right ahead. Okay, we're having some issues. You're breaking up a little bit. Let me see, but at the Jama says, like who Carmelo Anthony. I'm not saying I enjoy seeing black people get locked up, but let's be reasonable. So what do you mean, like who Carmelo Anthony? This is a situation in which I think they should be locked up, right? Period. I mean, if you're doing substantial harm to the black community, I have no love for you. If you're swindling people out of hard-earned money, and then you're taking that money, you're gallivanting across the world or the country, and you live in an extravagant lifestyle, you're not black to me. This is just my worldview. Of course, I'm on my bully pulpit, we're on my platform, but to me, you're not black. You are an enemy of black people. So the person can't come to me and run that game and then say, "Oh, I'm a brother." You're not a brother. You're an other, right? So just something to consider. Brother LMA, go right ahead. Okay, I think we're still having some technical difficulties, Brother LMA. Yeah. So that's a concern for me. If you're doing harm to the black community, you're not black. You're not a brother. You're not a sister. You're an other. And I think this is a situation where we need to other individuals who are preying on the black community, 100%. But this goes into why I wrote that article, why I took extreme umbrage with, of course, the situation that took place in Orlando with that pastor, because this contributes to setting people up to be manipulated financially and in other ways due to what? Promoting anti-intellectual, anti-critical sermons, right? And worldviews and of course, church service. So this is why I took extreme umbrage, right, with what took place, because this is the result of people going to those type of institutions, right? Because anyone of sound mind, I would argue sound mind and body would know, you know what, that makes no sense whatsoever. We'll bring you right back in, but that's nonsensical. I don't have to have a background in finance to know that's not how investments work. If someone is, a reasonable person would know, if you're promising me a 800% investment, that's not realistic, right? But because of the Cretan-like brainwashing that takes place in these religious institutions, they're able to run a game on people and put them in a position where they're able to be victimized. But the LMA, go right ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so you got it, brother. Go right ahead. No words?
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
sorry?
I almost got a bad connection.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, I'll just catch you next time, man. I'll be listening.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So Brother Jaman says, someone was saying you can murder someone and get less time. That is true. That is true. And so some would argue that maybe money is that could be an example of highlighting the fact that in this society, maybe money has more value than a person's life. I mean, someone could possibly make that argument. I'm not going to go there. I think this may be an issue based on what they were charged with and the number of people who were harmed. I mean, we're talking about over 10,000, right? So I think that could play a role in why that it was that number of individuals who were, of course, victimized, why they received that 40-year sentence. But once again, they put themselves in a situation by exploiting people and leaning on, of course, those cultural ties, cultural trust. You could trust us because we're Black. And we find that that's not the case. You could trust us because we're Christians, we're God-fearing. That means nothing. And as I said before, I taught my children this. When someone is bringing that up, they're trying to manipulate you. That has nothing to do with the issue. Hey, this is finance. We're talking about investing. You believe in God, Jesus Christ, Allah, whatever. Yes, Yahweh, Beelzebub means nothing. Do you know what you're doing? Do you have a background in this particular industry? Are you credentialed? Are you accredited? Are you licensed? That's what matters, right? And so I would argue much of this is due to we're socialized to give value to a person's belief system rather than the actual character, right? I know I can speak to this because I grew up going to church. We hear all the time, it doesn't matter how much education you got. So we see this anti-intellectualism playing a role in the religious indoctrination of African and African descendant people as well. So once again, family, the link is in the description. Link is in the chat. Tap in, be part of the conversation. Definitely want to hear from you all regarding this issue of the Black scammers, Marlon and LaShonda Moore, being sentenced to 40 years in prison each. Of course, they were in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, particularly Frisco, Texas. Let's see here. Just got Mr. Sandman, just got my patrilineal African ancestry back. My Y chromosome traces back to the Atki Kota Tsonga peoples of Highland Gabon. Very good, brother. Very good. Shout out to the Illidale, right? The 215. You're in, as some people call it, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, right? But definitely want to show love to you. Glad you was able to get that information back. And in fact, Walter Rodney, if I remember correctly, his dissertation was on the slave trade in the Upper Guinea Coast. And I think Gabon is not in the Upper Guinea Coast. That's South, Central Africa. But very good, brother. Shout out to you there. So definitely tap in if you're familiar with this case. If you want to talk about how can we prevent these type of things from taking place, I would argue one of the major issues is we have to focus on actually talking with individuals who are credentialed, who have actual experience in a particular field. I love pocket watching with JT. If you haven't subscribed to his channel, you haven't watched his content, he really exposes grifters, right? Individuals who are fraudsters, who claim that they have some type of background of financial literacy and how to help people financially or become economically independent, when that's not the case at all. So I definitely would say pocket watching with JT. I'm actually going to send him an email and see if he's open to doing an interview of course, on the platform, because I think he's just absolutely brilliant. He does a great analysis of course, of the grifters, Marlon and LaShonda Moore, why they received the time they received, but also why individuals should have been aware that what they were doing was, of course, fraudulent in nature. So definitely tap in, family. If not, we're going to call it an afternoon. Happy Pan African Tuesday to you all. As we know, Mr. Sandman would always say, definitely appreciate everyone tapping in. Tomorrow we have part 18 of our Pan African Leadership Series, where we're going to be, of course, chronicling once again life, legacy, and most importantly, the work of great Pan Africanists. We're doing this to study the great Pan Africans of the past, so that we can make a better world for African people in the future. So next time, family, y'all know what to do. Always bet on Black. Before you go, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you for supporting the channel. And remember, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. Peace.